The placement of furniture for the three different types of environments is very crucial in the way that it can have the slightest effect on a child/student on whether they will pay attention to the presented material or not. For example, Mr. Adams, with his moderate to severe classroom, has managed to set it up in a way where there will be minimal injuries. There are non-school related materials on the floor. His classroom is set up with workstations towards the back of the classroom around the wall, which could allow mobility. His classroom itself is shaped in the in the shape of a rectangle, but just the bottom of it, which allows students to move in the back of the classroom and in the front of the classroom. And since the desks are set up in a shape of a rectangle without the top of it, this allows the teacher with face-to-face interactions with students, because the teacher is able to go ahead and walk in the middle and help each child individually. When it comes to Miss Kelly's special education class, which is to moderate, she has a small table. Well, from what I saw, she has a small table in front of the bookshelf, where it allows students to minimize their mobility of reaching towards the books. So she's the one who sits in front of the books, covering the bookshelf, and the students are around on the table. Also, the students have enough space in the classroom to do movement. The space is in the front of the classroom where the board is located. The teacher, it shows that Miss Kelly has a mat on the floor, which looks like the students have their own assigned squares where they are limited to be, so like they cannot leave their square, which is beneficial for all the students that are there, because this does minimize injuries, because they know that they should stay in their own square without having to, move to the other side of another student. When it comes to children working on different skills, it seems that the class is set up in the way that there's a table in each corner of the classroom, which allows students to focus on their own work. So I saw when Ms. Kelly was working with a group of students, the paraprofessionals were working with the other students on the other side of the classroom. And it did seem that the class was kind of built in a way where there's like a little wall between each section of the students, or individualized group working on different activities. So this also allowed students to focus on the presented activity with the instruction given by their own teacher or the paraprofessional. So one thing that I did see for Miss Karen's early education classroom that I really liked was that when she was doing her small group activity, I noticed that in the back of the classroom, there was a pillar post where it was covered in, I want to say almost like a fabric beige looking material, which I believe was there to minimize injuries among students, since they are still young children. They still don't have, I guess, so much control over their fine or gross motor skills, so maybe they probably will bump into this. But since it's covered in this fabric, this would allow the minimization for injuries. I also did see that the teacher had around the classroom the work done from the students, which could work like as a motivational motive for younger children, which will. Some similarities that I saw that each classroom has is that each classroom is set up in a way that allows the movement in front of the board for the teacher and the students, and each class has their expectations of the classroom and of the children on the board, along with the class agendas and objectives. This allows students to follow routine and rules and regulations. It also allows for a better functioning classroom. I would say some differences that I did see is that depending on the grade level and severity of the disability is how the classroom is accommodated. So for the teacher who taught moderate to severe students, the classroom had less, I want to say, objects around. to minimize injuries just because you don't know what kind of severity the child might have. Also, I did see it was a little bit more spacious, which had better accommodations for maybe for students with wheelchairs. For the mild to moderate classroom, I saw that there was enough space for the girl or the student with the wheelchair to head and participate um, in classroom activities such as the movement when they were moving their arms and exercising, as well as when they were answering questions on, what day of the month it was, or whose birthday lands on what day. Um, so I guess the differences is that depending on what kind of or what type of students the teacher will have in the classroom is the type of environmental settings that they place on there. So an implication that can cause social issues for students would be the workstations that were probably set up in the moderate to severe classroom, just because the workstations were placed alongside on the outer side of the classroom, which had the student facing the wall, which could possibly be a social issue just because they will not be interacting. However, I did see that in the workstations for each child, there was another chair next to it. So I don't know if that was for the teacher aide or the paraprofessionals helping the teacher with the student to go ahead and interact with them, which would be a little bit more beneficial because the student will get that one-on-one time practicing the certain type of skill set that they have to accomplish for that week or the day, or that they probably have in their IEPs. An instructional issue that I possibly saw was that in the classroom with mild to moderate disabilities, is that during instructional time, I saw that the desks were grouped. So I don't know if that's something that is kept along the classroom through the whole instructional time, or if the teacher moves them all the time, which is possibly also another issue, just because moving desks all the time does cut off time from instruction.